What would you do if your company laid off a third of your team based on a lie and then expected you to just work harder? In today's story, the protagonist's response is a masterclass in how to handle it, culminating in a legendary act of professional revenge. This all happened sometime back in the 2010s. I was working for a medium-sized public limited company in the UK. Part of a small, tight-knit team that prepared quotes for the sales department. My team had 6 members and a manager, Mr. Harrison. We were a well-oiled machine, always busy, and we frequently helped out other teams, who in turn would help us when we were swamped. It was a collaborative environment, and honestly, I enjoyed the work. That camaraderie was important, and its eventual destruction was the first sign of the rot setting in. The company itself was having some trouble with regulators, and it seemed like senior management was either clueless about the damage they were causing or simply didn't care. Their big idea was to save costs, but they went about it in the worst way imaginable. It began when our whole team was called into a meeting without any warning. The bombshell dropped immediately, due to what they called declining work tickets. They were making 2 of us redundant. They had the gall to tell us that 2 people were safe, our manager, Mr. Harrison, and his favorite, Gareth. The rest of us had to reapply for our own jobs. This involved a condescending test that had absolutely nothing to do with our actual roles. Just a box-ticking exercise to follow the letter of the law on redundancy. It quickly became clear that the company had, at best, manipulated the data, and at worst, flat out lied. They claimed our ticket numbers were falling, but the total drop over 3 years was a laughable 13 tickets out of several thousand we processed annually. Mr. Harrison stood there, smugly announcing his cost-saving victory, completely unaware that the lie he was telling would set in motion the complete and utter destruction of his entire department. In the end, 2 of our best team members were let go. One took a severance package, but the other sued the company for a host of issues and, I'm happy to say, she won. When the dust settled, the final insult became clear. Mr. Harrison had secured the position for his sidekick, Gareth, who was objectively the worst member of our team in both the quantity and quality of his work. This revealed Mr. Harrison's greatest fatal flaw, his preference for loyalty over competence. It was a short-sightedness that would leave him with an ally as useless as himself when things truly fell apart. As one commenter on my original story rightly pointed out, people don't leave bad jobs. They leave bad managers. We used to like our work, but Mr. Harrison was methodically poisoning the well. The consequences were immediate. Now a team of 4. We were completely overwhelmed. We no longer had any time to help the other teams. So, naturally, they stopped helping us. A huge backlog of tickets began to build up. A mountain of work that was impossible to climb. Then came the threats. Management warned us we'd face disciplinary proceedings if we didn't get the backlog down. Yet they flatly refused to approve any overtime during the redundancy process. They had also admonished us for skipping certain pointless steps in the quoting process, steps that took ages and served no real purpose. That's when the 3 of us, myself, Tom, and Chloe, had an idea. Gareth, of course, was too busy being the manager's yes-man to be included. We decided to engage in some malicious compliance. From that day forward, we would do everything by the book, down to every last useless bullet point. This was the turning point. Management had pushed them with threats and disrespect. And now they were about to discover the devastating power of employees who follow every single rule. Predictably, the backlog got even worse. But they couldn't say a thing because we were just following their own procedures. This led to another meeting. This time with HR, the sales director, and Mr. Harrison, all demanding to know why things were so slow. We all calmly explained. We are sorry, but we have to follow the guidelines and rules you laid down. And this is as fast as we can work. They then asked us to start helping other teams again. To be team players. We just as calmly replied. We're sorry, but we can't. Our workload is too high. And our contracts don't require us to do other teams' work. This stalemate went on for months. Then came the holidays. We discovered they had never updated the team's holiday allowance rule, which still stated that 3 people could be off at any one time. So, the 3 of us, me, Tom, and Chloe, all booked 2 weeks off at the same time. Tom and Chloe planned trips abroad. And I arranged to visit family at the other end of the country. Mr. Harrison didn't realize what had happened until a week before we were due to leave. He went absolutely ballistic. Another frantic meeting with HR was called. We sat there, unmoved, and repeated our new mantra. Sorry, we said. But we checked the rules for our team. And 3 people out of 4 can be off at the same time. We stood our ground. And for 2 glorious weeks. The quoting department consisted solely of Mr. Harrison and Gareth. The chaos this caused was, as you can imagine, immense. After that debacle, the sales director hatched a new plan: train up our teams in India to take on the workload. The catch? They demanded that we fly to India for several weeks to train them personally. Again, we refused. It wasn't in our contracts that we had to be trainers or work abroad. They conveniently ignored the fact that I didn't even have a passport. So, the task fell to poor Mr. Harrison and his sidekick, Gareth. They traveled to India for what was supposed to be a few weeks of training. It turned into a 2-month-long failure. They couldn't train the offshore team properly at all. We'd send simple, low-effort tickets to the India team. They would inevitably screw them up. And we would simply reply that to fix the mess, the entire job had to be redone from scratch by us. After 6 months of this expensive failure, the company finally gave up on the idea. After about a year of this nonsense, the 3 of us had had enough. We no longer trusted the company or our manager. And we all started looking for other jobs. In a stroke of perfect timing, we all found new roles within a week of each other. We walked in and handed in our 4-week notices, ensuring they were to the letter of our employment contracts. All set to leave on the very same day. But the story doesn't end there. During our final weeks, Chloe, who was an incredibly sharp and learned person, made a stunning discovery. She had reviewed our employment contracts and found a clause that stated any documentation we created, manuals, guides, cheat sheets, was legally our own property. And we could do with it as we wished when we left. As another commenter later noted, it's absolutely insane that a company would have such a contract. But it was a fantastic catch by Chloe. A plan was hatched. In our final week, we meticulously moved all our digital files to a single location on the network. This included every manual and cheat sheet I had created, not just for our current team, but for my previous team in a different department as well. Tom and Chloe did the same with their materials. On our final day, we each brought in our own personal external hard drives. With the help of a very cooperative IT technician, we downloaded every single document and then permanently deleted all copies from the company's systems. We spent the rest of the day saying our goodbyes. At the end of the day, we walked into Mr. Harrison's office and quite happily told him exactly what we had done. He exploded. He turned beet red and started demanding we give the files back. We just calmly told him, not according to the letter of our contracts. I held up my hard drive, waved it at him, and said, "This is ours, and we choose to take it with us." We were later told by friends still at the company that the sales director had an absolute fit. His entire pipeline of quotes had just been completely severed at the root. With no documentation, no experienced staff, and no hope of fixing it quickly, the three of us all went on to great new jobs. And we still keep in touch. It just goes to show that if you push people too far, they won't just leave. They'll make sure you remember the day you decided they were disposable. So, let me ask you, have you ever been in a situation where doing your job by the book was the most powerful form of protest? Share your story in the comments below.